Welcome back all. So today I'm going to go ahead and bring about the creation of the decryption program. A lot of you have asked me for this and I did promise you this, and I am really sorry that it took a while to get this out. But yeah, I've had some problems in my life with a lot of other things that required my attention, and I just couldn't find the time at all. I am so sorry to everybody. That was the first thing that I wanted to say. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and create the program for decrypting the encrypted files that the keylogger actually sends. Okay, so I'm hoping that you have code blocks installed by this point in time. So just open up code blocks and wait for it to start. Okay, so then go ahead and click on create new project, select console application. Next, make sure that you have C++ selected. Next, and name your file. Name your project. I'm gonna name mine decrypt. You can name yours whatever you want. I'm gonna set the path to go to the desktop. So finish. Yep, there we go. Excellent. So we go into the main CPP and we zoom this in. Delete this part and delete this part. Also, I would like to address another question, and some of you have raised concerns that the code of the keylogger is not the same in the course as it is on the GitHub. There are some trivial changes, like for example, instead of actually plugging in the general namespace like that, instead of plugging in the namespace in a general sense like this, so using namespace std, I didn't do that. I just did this. So std : I don't know, string. So instead of actually plugging it in here, I've been plugging it in like this. It makes no difference in terms of the code. It just my way of coding. You can use both ways. It doesn't actually make any difference in regard to the code. So in regard to the functionality of the code. And I haven't included the same things as I did in the course, but again, it doesn't matter because a lot of the includes here during the course were for demo purposes. It's like show and tell, etc. So some of them were not needed for the proper functioning of the keylogger, but whether you plug them in or not, it's still going to work, no problems. So those are some really minor, trivial differences that exist, but either way, whether you do this or that or both combined, it shouldn't affect the code in any way, not as far as I can see. Both versions work just fine for me, and they still work just fine for me, and they still do. I mean, I didn't just write this without conducting any sort of tests. I've tested this in a series of environments, on a series of different machines, and it worked on all of them. Anyway, let's go ahead and begin writing our decryption program. So we're gonna need a string and fstream in addition to this. Okay, so include, and we're gonna do fstream, and then we're gonna include. I'm gonna write out a section of this code simply because there isn't a lot of it, and it's fairly simple to actually type it out. So we need fstream and we need string. Okay, so those are the two additional includes which we need to make here. Now we need to make some modifications in regard to the main function. So the main function will need to take arguments. It's going to be int argc, and I just need to turn on the light. So because I don't have a backlit keyboard and it's pretty dark. Anyway, thank you for allowing me that break. Let's go ahead and continue. So char, and we're gonna get a pointer here, argv, and then just close and open blocks. Okay, so this will allow us to actually pass a string to our code to our program when we actually run it. We don't need to recompile it 100 times, just compile it once, and then you keep on passing the arguments to it. The two arguments that this program will receive are basically the file. It needs two parameters, so two arguments, needs input and needs output. So you need an input file and you need an output file. Just give two paths and that's it. So the file that you wish to decrypt and the file that you wish to use as a storage place for the decrypted content of the encrypted file. Simple as that, no big deal. So let's go ahead and begin off with a if statement here. First, we need to check the amount of arguments. So if argc is not equal to 3, you're going to say return cout, and then we wish to print something out onto the screen, like that there was an error message or whatever. Let's say that program needs to. It's been a while since I actually wrote this code. I have it in my notes, but I've written it and I just didn't have the time to cast it. So bear with me here if I make some errors. Arguments, and then we type in like input and output, exclamation mark for the melodrama. Okay, so let's just go ahead and move everything that comes afterwards into the next line. So and in addition to this printout, we're gonna return error code 2. Okay, so the error code 2 will be symbolic to this message that we have passed insufficient arguments to the to the main function, to the program that runs. Okay, so let's go ahead and proceed. So string and then space, and we're going to name the string in. And this in string will be initialized with the following things. So argv, we're going to put 1 here. Swear to God, there were so many simpler ways to write this. I do not know what was going through my mind. I don't know, must have been really late at night or something like that. We're going to do argv1, and this needs to actually go into parentheses. Apologies. Okay, so there we go, and we're going to leave, let's just rewrite this one. So out and then space. So string in will be initialized with the argument 1, and the string out, which is the next string in the line, will be initialized with the argument number 2. So argv 2. Okay, so close it. And let's go ahead and do a line terminator. So let's go into the next line. We have initialized the 2 strings to basically the arguments that are passed on the command line to the program at the time of the program's execution. Okay, so then we type in if stream, and we're going to name this one fi. The names for the strings are arbitrary. You can use pretty much whatever you want. Just make sure that if you change the name of the string, that the changes are reflected in the rest of the code. Okay, and then we're going to go into another if statement. So we're just going to if fi is false, meaning if it's empty. If it's empty, it will be null or something like that. In any case, it will be evaluated to false. If there is something in it, if there is some sort of value in it, that will be evaluated as true. So if there is something in the input, if the input is actually empty, then we're going to return an error code. So return cout. There's a bit of a redundant error checks here, as this is a simple program, but I guess it's just a programming habit. So cannot read input file, and like we're just gonna do this in, and okay, so that was my awesome typing skills. and just give it another quote mark. So the file will be in the quote marks, single quote marks. And then we're going to do end L, comma here, and we're going to return the error code 3. So error code 3 will symbolize that it cannot read the input file for whatever reason. Maybe you don't have a permission, maybe it doesn't exist, etc. So yeah, if it cannot read the input file, it's just going to throw this error for whatever reason. Okay, so next thing we need to do is string data. Okay, and so we're gonna stream. We're gonna stream into data, or we're gonna output into. We're gonna input into data. Okay, my throat is getting a little bit dry, but it's nothing too terrible. I have just neglected to write a few things here. So std : and one more. The cout also needs std : because I didn't include the namespace at the top. So string if stream. Write this cout std : and we need a string, which is std : I don't know. I could have enabled it at the top, but you see, when you start including namespaces here, it wouldn't be a problem in a program like this. But if you have a program where you need to include multiple namespaces, including custom namespaces, and if those namespaces contain types with the same names, for example, you have your own custom type string and then you have a system string, that's going to be a problem. Because when you call a string, I'm not sure which one will it call, or will it get actually confused? Will it call the system one, or will it call your own custom one, etc.? That's why it's kind of a better practice to state from which namespace are you calling what. And in such a way, you ensure yourself to a far greater extent. So endl also needs std, if I'm not mistaken. Been a while since I did this, so bear with me. Lately, I've just been programming in Java, and it's completely different, I gotta tell you that. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna do a semicolon here. If there is a mistake up there somewhere, the compiler will tell us, and we'll go over any possibilities of logical mistakes as well, if I notice any. Okay, so just one more thing. I forgot right here. So std : this one needs also the namespace std. Anyway, now we can move on. Because in my notes, I've actually plugged the std namespace up there. And here I would like to plug them in as is. Okay, so moving on. Now we're going to do another one. So if fi is once again empty, or if there is some sort of problem with it. I mean, if it's not empty, if after the attempt to stream into data, input into data, if there is a problem, just go ahead and do a return and tell us basically this. So cout, there is a bit of redundant debugging statements here, and a lot of cases were taken into consideration for a program of this magnitude, which is not very large. So input file, and then we're going to go ahead and space std : Okay, so let's go ahead and do this and open up the quote marks again, single quote marks, space, corrupted. Okay, let's say that it's corrupted here. And L, and this will result in the error code 4. So this will be the return code 4 if it's corrupted or something like that. Okay, so now we're gonna need to basically decrypt the given data. And we're gonna type in data, then we're gonna state that it equals, and we're gonna type in just the decrypt decrypt base 64. Okay, so this is a call to a function which actually will be returning a string, which we still haven't actually made. So we need to actually make the function decrypt base 64. And we can do that by opening up GitHub. And on GitHub, these repositories are open, so anybody can access them without the need to log in or register anywhere. You have the link right here. It's https://github.com/creator69/keylogger-. Okay. And we need to go into base64.h. And this function exists. I just didn't utilize it. It was written here. And there you go. It says decrypt b64 base 64. It is a string and it returns a string. So you can just go ahead and copy it. No big deal. It was actually in your C++ code, but inactive and dormant because it wasn't called at all. Okay, so Control C. I haven't written it in the course itself, but I did upload it to GitHub so that people can actually see. Keep in mind that, let me just go ahead and zoom it in even more. That was my Linux system telling me that I need to update it. The sound, the penetrating sound that you heard in the background. So there's encrypt b64 and decrypt b64. So these two functions need to match each other's procedures. And decrypt base64 is basically the reverse of encrypt b64. So what if you have modified this in any way, form, or manner, oops. Okay, let's do it like this. Those changes need to be reflected here. If they are not reflected here, this decrypt function will not decrypt properly. So this is the encryption process, and as I've explained in the previous lectures of the Keylogger course, and I'm going to be uploading these videos to the ethical hacking as well so that people have access there as well, because I've used the Keylogger there for certain things. This part is heavily customizable, so this part is actually intended to be customizable so that people can formulate their own encryptions. Well, not their own encryptions, but so that people can put their own salts and obscure the base64 encoding with their own salts. If you have made any changes there, you need to make sure that those changes are reflected here, because this is the decrypt b64 is reversing the process of encrypt b64. Keep that in mind. So you can just go ahead and select all of this, right? Press Control C, and then go into code blocks. And we can, actually, I'm going to put it down below. I'm going to prototype it up above. So just do that, and then go ahead and Control C this, and put it up here. And you need to change the name a little bit because actually it's simpler to change the name down below. So instead of base64, just type in b64 and pass the string data. Press Control S to save all of this, and I bid you farewell now because I'm running a little bit short in terms of time, and I'll see you in the follow tutorial where we will continue onwards with this.